for the evening to get a temporary reminder of the mad rush that comes with sitting in the center seat, at least for a few minutes. So we've been in work session. Sean led what I assume is a wildly populated large crowd in our tax budget hearing. So that leaves us with the next item on our agenda is item number 5, opening session. And if you will stand with me to do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And with that, my reign is about over. Item number 6, election of the officers. We'll start with the office of president. Is there a nomination for the position of president of the school board?
Yeah, I'd like to nominate Mr. Galvin.
Second.
All right. Any other nominations? Hearing none. Sean?
Mr. Galvin.
Abstain.
Mrs. Yingling.
Yes.
Mr. Wise.
Yes.
Mr. Steele.
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy.
Yes.
I, Charles Galvin,
I, Charles Galvin,
do solemnly affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
do solemnly affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge my duties as president
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge my duties as president
in and for the Mason City School District,
in and for the Mason City School District,
Warren County, Ohio,
Warren County, Ohio,
to the best of my ability during my term of office.
to the best of my ability during my term in office.
Excellent job, Matt.
Thank you.
Nice job, Scott.
Thank you, Matt, and thank you to my fellow board members. I appreciate the confidence, although as you reminded me earlier, my first term was pretty quickly before we quickly underway before we got into a global pandemic, so hopefully this one goes a little bit more smooth. The next item on the agenda is the appointment of a vice president. Do we have any nominations?
I nominate Connie Yingling.
Second?
Any discussion? Any other noms? All right, hearing none. Sean?
Mrs. Yingling.
Yes.
Mr. Wise.
Yes.
Mr. Steele.
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy.
Yes.
Mr. Galvin.
Yes.
5-0.
I, Connie England,
I, Connie Ewing,
do solemnly affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I solemnly affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio.
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge my duties as vice president
I will faithfully
and
and impartially discharge my duties for the office of Vice President
in and for the Mason City School District,
in and for the Mason City School District,
Warren County, Ohio,
Warren County, Ohio,
to the best of my ability
to the best of my ability
during my term of office.
during my term of office.
I was going to say, Sean doesn't mess around with that. He keeps you on your toes. You got to really pay
Yeah,
attention.
that line with the impartiality, that got me too. I had to stop and think about that.
Why don't you just say the whole thing and make him repeat it?
Somebody was supposed to do that at their wedding one day.
I realized I didn't have my script when I got up there, and I was terrified for a second. All right. The next item on our agenda is the item number 7, Board of Education appointments. The first appointment is for Ohio School Board Association Legislative Liaison. Do you have any nominations?
Nominate Kevin Wise, Legislative Liaison.
All right, any discussion? Hearing none. Sean?
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
5-0.
The next appointment is for the Ohio School Board Association Student Achievement Liaison. We have a nomination.
Nominate Desiree Batchy.
Second.
All right, any discussion? Sean?
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
5-0.
All right, item number 8, Board of Education 2021 schedule. All had a chance to look this over. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? As we've seen in 2020, the calendar may or may not be subject to some flexibility, so we will adapt accordingly, but for now, this will be what we go with. So, hearing no other discussion, Sean?
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 9, tax advances. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just briefly, what this is that twice a year we collect our property taxes from the Warren County Auditor's Office, and this allows us to receive those taxes as they're paid. So instead of having to wait until the very end when everything's collected, we get to collect it throughout the process.
Sean. All right, any other discussion? Sean?
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 10, service fund. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
This is just a fund for professional development opportunities for the board throughout the year.
All right. Sean?
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 11, Records Commission. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
So the Records Commission, this is a compliance requirement where the commission is made up of the board president, the superintendent, and the treasurer. The commission will meet at least once per year and basically reviews the records retention schedule and also approves of any disposals of records that might be necessary.
Thanks, Sean. Any other discussion? All right, Sean?
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 12, Tax Incentive Review Council Representative Appointment. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
So Tax and Incentive Review Council is it's a group that meets at the county once a year and basically goes through all of any kind of tax incentive or economic development agreements that have been made. They review those for each entity, so each city, each township. They'll go through those, and so this allows me as the treasurer to represent the board at that meeting, and just it's a place where we make sure that the group makes sure that anybody who has any kind of incentive agreement is in compliance with that agreement.
Thanks. Any other discussion? Sean?
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 13, Payment of Bills, Investment of Funds, and Accounting Transactions. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
This one's pretty self-explanatory.
Agreed. All right, Sean?
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 14, Public Records Representative. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
These are the times where I appreciate the treasurer, maybe even more than some other meetings where you are stepping up and being our representative for a lot of these commissions. We appreciate it.
Agree. I think particularly coming off the past year, I think this role was particularly important. So we appreciate you filling that in for us, Sean.
That's obviously public records is it's a privilege for any community out there, and so we appreciate the support of our community and appreciate the opportunity to provide them with whatever information they might need.
Thanks. Any other discussion? All right, Sean?
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Ms. Batchy?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 15, personnel employment between board meetings. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Sean?
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 16, disposal of property. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Sean?
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 17, approval of minutes. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Sean?
Mr.
Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 18. Feels a little different, a little later than usual, but finally the main course here. Superintendent's presentation.
Well, thank you. And as you heard President Galvin announce, this is the organizational meeting, so there's a lot of organization that has to take place to get ready for the year. So I appreciate going through all of those components so everyone understands how we're set up for the entire year, and thanks for serving in those capacities. Right now, I'd like to transition to our superintendent presentation to introduce someone that is an extension of our board that serves on the Great Oaks board. So Great Oaks is a great partnership we have where our students can participate in all kinds of different avenues for career choices that they may have that possibly follow different tracks than your traditional four-year college track. And so they've been a great partner for the whole region. In the past, I think we've had about 60, last year somewhere in the ballpark of 60 some students that participated in there. And I think this year we're up to somewhere in the ballpark of 80 some students that are taking part in those studies. And then we also have some of those studies here with a biotech room and also a teaching academy that happens here at the high school. So it's a partnership that happens not only here at the high school, but also on the campus of Great Oaks. And we always have a representative, and Deb Delp has done a great job representing our board, and we thank her family for that service. And as Deb passed, and we have worked on thinking through who can we bring on to serve in that capacity, we looked at the community and looked at people that'd be the right fit, and Joe Schroeder was willing to take that on as a responsibility and a connection. And so I'd like to introduce the board to Joe, and I know a lot of you know Joe, but I'd like to invite you down to podium, Joe, to just share a little bit of your story. So welcome. And Joe, you might share, you just came from Skippers and
Yeah, I don't normally dress like this. We just had a Comet Skipper jump rope practice, it's still going on right now. But I appreciate the time of the board just to introduce myself and Superintendent Cooper. So thank you. You guys do first I want to say, you guys do a fantastic job. 16 years ago, my family moved here, and why did we move here? Common thing you hear, the schools. It's not easy. It's easy to see on the ODE website what this school district does and some of the academics achievements of the kids. So that's why we moved here 16 years ago. My family, just introducing myself a little bit, my wife of 28 years, she actually works in the cafeteria. She's a child nutrition department. She's been there 7 years. I have 2 kids. My daughter is a junior in high school. She's obviously on the Comet Skipper jump rope team. That's how I got involved. And my son, he's an OSU sophomore, and he graduated from here, and he was in the band for 4 years, and That was probably the best experience he has ever had. I mean, he loved being in the band, and I loved helping. I was on the pit crew, which you probably know what they do, but that was a fun experience, a lot of work, but it was great. But that's my family. In terms of community involvement, obviously I started community involvement through my kids. Cub Scout Den leader, baseball coach, obviously Comet Skippers. I've been assistant coach for probably 6 years now. I've enjoyed every minute of it. And I didn't know anything about jump rope, but they asked me to coach for some reason, and I started learning about it. I'm not a great jumper though, so don't ask for a demo. So Tracy probably knows. So that was my involvement in terms of through the kids. Then my community involvement then expanded. I worked for P&G for 22 years. I know, Kevin, I think you're with P&G. And I early retired, and I was looking for to give back. I actually had volunteered at United Way for many years, United Way of Warren County, through their campaign. And I asked the CEO, Aaron Reed, if he had any opportunities. And he said, well, we're trying to start a high school workforce initiative, which basically targets students who aren't going to college with great career opportunities in Warren County. There's great manufacturing jobs in Warren County that really pay great and have lots of opportunity for career pathing and tuition reimbursement. There are just a ton of opportunities. So he asked me to start that, and we have 6 high schools participating in it. We do career path work with students who aren't going to college. We expose them to opportunities before COVID, we had tours and presentations that I set up with these manufacturers. And then we also help them prepare for interviews, and then help them with resumes if they need it. So basically I'm helping high school students with career paths. That's what I was doing. So 2018, retired from P&G, then started doing that with United Way. COVID hit, so I couldn't set up tours, presentations. And my boss said, hey, why don't you, he actually is the CEO of Warren County Community Services as well. And he said, why don't you start an employment program, because all these people are out of work. Why don't you start an employment program at Warren County Community Services and kind of manage on the side United Way through somebody we had met who does coaching of youth in terms of job and career coaching. And so I'm doing the United Way thing through the person who works for me, and also working at Warren County Community Services on employment help for adults. So my exposure to career tech has been through Warren County Career Center, which basically has great programs. When I went over to Great Oaks to talk to Harry, I was super impressed. They have so many different programs, an awesome facility. So basically, that's my community involvement has expanded to more than just the kids stuff, but it's been to Warren County. I also, and this is not a brag session, but I also am the president of Kiwanis. I've been in Kiwanis for about 6 years. Love the mission of Kiwanis is basically to help kids succeed. And one of the things I love the most about Kiwanis is the Student of the Month program, where the teachers come in and talk about the students, and the students talk about the teachers, and their parents also chime in as well. And it's just a beautiful thing to see. And you see what Mason represents. You see what the teachers try to achieve with the students. I mean, it's just inspiring. So I always love that. So I'm the president of Kiwanis as well. So that's a little bit about me. Hopefully that suffices for introduction.
Well, Joe, we can't say thank you enough for being willing to take on this role. When your name came up, we felt like you were a fantastic fit, and we know that the students that we have that are over there at Great Oaks are going to be beneficiaries, not just them, as well as all of the students that you'll be helping impact over there at Great Oaks. So we really appreciate your willingness to serve the district in this role.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Anybody have any questions or anything?
Yeah, any questions for Joe?
Well, I don't have a question, but Joe, I want to thank you as well. And, one of the things that we all know that, and our teaching staff knows, is that we have a tremendous diversity of interest amongst our kids here. We're not just sending them to, off to college, and there's a large number who are seeking other avenues and routes. And so that matched that up with an incredibly strong economy in Warren County and the needs, and not just in manufacturing, but in the trades and everywhere else. We're just thrilled that you've stepped up, and particularly with your background and everything you've got your hands in, I think you'll really learn a lot there, and I think the board there will benefit from you, and we certainly will as well. So thank you for being willing to serve.
Thank you. Yeah, I do. It did open my eyes when I started doing the job, learning about manufacturing and the opportunities that high school students have, and the fact that not all should be going to college, and there are great, personal journeys that are different, and kids deserve to see these different opportunities, and there's a right fit for them. And this opened my eyes, because when my kids were little, what I would say to them is the key to success is great grades in high school, go to a great college, and get a great job. But that wasn't right. That's not right for everybody. It's right for some, but not for everybody. So it really opened my eyes, and I appreciate the opportunity to represent, because I do believe in that type of effort. So,
Joe, we really appreciate it. It's actually really exciting. It seems like kind of a perfect timing to tap into your skills and your kind of broader perspective, because we talk a lot about alternative careers and how we can best serve our students here in Mason. Your perspective and what you do for your day job will give us an opportunity to tap into that, and we can have a dialogue about that, about what we could do to help support that, help support our students, other than supporting Great Oaks, right? That there are other opportunities to reach and live out that investment in our students, because we hear a lot from our business leaders, our business community, about the need for
Right.
skilled workforce, right? And so it's awesome to hear how your work has been trying to meet career paths with that need, and we're excited that you being in this position and dialoguing with us will give us an opportunity to help make that happen too. So we appreciate your willingness to step up.
thanks.
Joe, thanks for being here. Thanks for introducing yourself. And you are just, it sounds like the perfect fit for what we're hoping for. And we'll keep the communication on a regular rhythm so that we're giving updates to the board on what's going on, because I know you have board meetings now with Great Oaks, and that will keep us connected as we go. Before you go, are you okay just doing a quick picture with the board? We'll have the board step out in front of their spots and just as an additional board member to our group. Is that all right?
Grab a jump rope. Grab a jump rope.
If we had a jump rope, we'd have you.
We do some double dutch in there.
Double Dutch. You want to do some double Dutch? I just had the kids do double Dutch speed, so I got.
He does not speak for all of us.
We don't want anybody to get hurt in here, but that, you could,
All right, I'm gonna have you go right in the middle there with that. That's great. Allie, that's great. One.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
for your trip back.
Oh, yeah, thanks, Anna.
All right. We ready to move to our next item on the agenda?
Yes.
Skip that. Right.
I think we can do it.
We can do it in order. Yeah, I apologize. I was supposed to hit pause there, and we were going to pop that up there while he's here. But I know he has to get back to practice, so
No, that's fine.
moved him right back.
We will vote on his appointment soon. Item number 19 is hearing of the public. Do we have anybody tonight, Tracy?
Nothing tonight.
All right. Item number 20, non-district funded positions. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Sean?
Mrs. Batching?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 21, action items, Superintendents Recommendations. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion?
Just really quickly, I'll highlight that the first one on here is the appointment of Joe Schroeder into that position as our representative on the board for Great Oaks, and he mentioned that he's already met with Harry Snyder and been over there to meet with their board as well. So he'll be a great representative for us. If you go to I'd like to also highlight item F, if that's okay, because item F is the Circle Tails. We have, as you can remember, the rhythm here is we get a dog as an internship or an interim period of time where the dog's just kind of testing us out. We're testing the dog out. It's kind of a job interview for the dog. And after that time period, then we pay the amount to have the dog here officially after that training. So this is that official piece. And this will be our second Circle Tail therapy dog that's in session. So the first one was Lucy that came in. You probably heard of Lucy, and I'm sure
That Lucy.
maybe your kids have, talked about Lucy. Lucy's at most of the time at ME and MI going through there. And then Hibbs is the dog that is here at the high school. And Hibbs is a, I don't know, Black Lab is the right, is it Black Lab? Is it the right? Yeah. So Hibbs is a great therapy dog, and Hibbs is also connected to the Hope Squad as well. But I'll share this with you because during this week, we had, a difficult week to come back on Monday, but we had multiple therapy dogs from other places come in and be a comfort to our students. And so I highlight that because these dogs play a much bigger role than we ever even imagined as a healing piece and just a day-to-day comfort for our kids. So just want to, usually I wouldn't talk that much about a dog, but they played a big role this week, and they were heroes. So
The internship, it goes hand in hand with our workforce development theme early in this meeting, so
yeah,
thank you for highlighting that, Jonathan. Any further discussion? Sean?
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 22, Treasurer's Report. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Couple items to highlight here. One is the 2022 tax budget. This is an item that we work on and submit each year. It's part of our compliance with Ohio budgetary laws. We do submit this tax budget form to the County Budget Commission, which is made up of the county auditor, county treasurer, and county prosecutor. And then we'll have a hearing here later next month where they'll review it. But basically, the most valuable piece of this document is the part of it where they look and see what the balances are in a bond retirement fund and what our upcoming payments are over the next couple of years. And so basically that allows the county auditor to set the bond rate at an accurate amount to make sure that we're covering all of our obligations as a district in terms of our debt. And so this kind of starts off the process. We'll cover fiscal year 22, but as part of that, again, part of our compliance with budgetary laws, and that's really the main the outcome of that the county auditor uses it for. The second piece I did want to highlight is on the donations. It seems like each month we're talking about some kind of local company, some kind of family, some organization that's donating, whether it's goods or dollars to the district or some part of the district. This month is certainly no exception. We do see several different donations on here, including one that we see on a frequent basis is the Mason City Schools Comet Cupboard. And again, we've talked, I know, a lot about the work that they do, but certainly appreciate Casey Moran and the team, the Girl Scouts, and all the people that volunteer over there to make sure that students and families in our community are taken care of. You can see tonight we have donations from of food, of codes, of dollars, and so we again appreciate the support we have from our community.
It is like the North Pole over there, if you ever get to visit. They have a well-run machine.
Oh, they do.
Thank you, Sean. Any other discussion? Sean?
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 23, committee reports. We had, let's see, Arts and Activities Council Committee meeting on January 5th.
Tracy's going to do that for us.
Sure, we had a couple of items. One, we approved a new club, the Kind Act Club, which is going to be our students who want to serve area senior citizens, particularly some of our neighbors who are in nursing homes. And they've been already thinking of things that they, obviously with COVID and isolation, and so how can they do that in a way that's virtual, with the hope that someday we'll be able to do things in person again as well. So that was one of the things we approved. And then the other piece we approved, we made some supplemental changes to eliminate some supplementals from clubs that have had dwindling membership for years in order to help. We've had a freeze on supplementals for many years, and so this way it allows us to meet a need for a couple of things that we have a higher need for. One, we were able to repurpose by eliminating some clubs that had that kind of declining participation for a new Mason Middle School and Mason High School esports coordinator. Esports are a very growing field, and again, in a time period of even the pandemic but beyond, they've been something that's really important, and that's been a high interest area for quite some time. So we're really excited to be able to offer that for our middle school and high school students. And then we've also had a new supplemental for our National Business Honor Society advisor, which puts them on the same par as all of our other National Honor Societies, and so we're glad to be able to do that.
So jealous of the missing out on the esports wave when I was in high school.
So great.
What could have been?
I mean,
knows?
swimming would
Could
have
have
been
been a Bethany Hall of Famer. Bethany Hall of Famer, I think, is definitely in your
First
within your
ballot,
rate.
for sure. All right, thanks, Tracy. Business Advisory Committee? Do you want
Yeah.
to take that one, Matt?
Yeah, sure. Wow, that was last week. We had a chance to check in with our business advisory representatives, representatives from businesses in the Mason community. And, as we say every time, that's just a fantastic group of leaders in our community who give us really valuable and immediate feedback on some of the things that we throw at them. And Jonathan always does a really good job of either updating them on kind of where things are right now, going in a little bit deeper with them about, the status of things right now, or running things by them to get a quick take about how it might land in the community, and kind of just a reflection of what the community, how the community might react to something or think through something. This time, there's another update on COVID issues, and specifically quarantine and what that means for our schools. And what I've loved about those meetings too is Jonathan takes the time to kind of ask the group how things are going with all of this in their businesses, because that's a new kind of perspective that's valuable to us, to just kind of see how it's landing with people out in the business community, because those are our Mason families too, our parents and our community members. So it's interesting to get that perspective as well. But always great feedback.
Thanks, Matt. All right. Item number 24, legislative update.
Yeah, I'm going to run through a couple things here. We have had, it's been active. There's all kinds of legislation that's going through right now. It was kind of on hold there for a moment, and then it just started moving quickly. And a lot of these were signed just in the last day or so, January 7th, January 10th, January through that time. So let me just highlight a few, because there are so many to keep your eye on, but the first one that's probably, just so you know, there's House Bill 123 that went through. Todd and I have talked a little bit about that. That is one that's around safety and threat assessment. What's, I think, helpful to know is that this is a new House bill going forward, making sure schools have these different layers of their safety protocols and safety teams in place. We actually already have them in place. So Todd actually has these committees already in place over the last couple of years. And so we're a couple of years ahead of that, which is great, but now all schools will be on that same page, so it's safer for all schools to have those protocols. So thank Todd for your leadership in that, to make sure that we are up to speed and ahead of that curve. And then House Bill, another one I just want to highlight, there's House Bill 409, and that just gets signed as well on January 7th. And House Bill 409, there's a few things that get plugged into this House Bill. So one of the pieces there is conversations around substitute teachers. And so Tanya and I have talked about that, and now you have some local control on defining the qualifications of the substitute teacher. And so that's just brand new information to us. And so it's not a universal rule that this is what a substitute teacher has to have. So it gives you more flexibility locally. So locally, we'll need to talk that through. And at some point in time, if we change that status, we'll go through a resolution here and talk that through and change that as a local decision to get more flexibility because they're having such a sub shortage everywhere. There's also third grade guarantee is something that's been talked about. This extends something that was already passed earlier in the year. They passed a bill that waived the testing connection from the third grade test to whether or not a student will pass third grade. So that was already passed for the first part of the year. This bill extends that through the spring as well. So if a student would not pass the third grade test, it will not have a negative impact on their promotion up to fourth grade. So that is something that has changed in this bill, and that's connected also to COVID and everything going on. And then the report card is another one that is interesting to us is the report card, they're still going to collect the data from the report card, but the report card cannot be used to rank schools, is what bill is saying. So it would not be allowed to rank schools. Now, we'll watch and see how that actually plays out, all right? We've kind of been through these things before, but all of this is a representation of advocacy that we've done as superintendents and leaders across the state, asking our legislators to give us some kind of relief during this time, and prioritization over why are we spending our time and energy over testing when we just need to make sure that our teachers and our students are safe. Why not reallocate our energy and our time and our resources into that? So this doesn't exactly do all that, but it starts to show that the more we push on that, they're starting to realize that we need to rethink some of those things. So it is an opportunity for us to keep pushing that, and because we're not against accountability, but the way the state has used that in the past to rank schools has not been something that has been helpful in building collaboration across the state. And then I think the last one I'll just highlight for you, and if you have any questions or comments, maybe you have other bills that you want to maybe highlight, is there's another one just to keep our eye on, and it's House Bill 436. This one has been in the making for a while. It's a dyslexia screening bill that we've been watching for a while. It's been in conversations for a couple years, but basically what this bill, and this has already gone through, in 2022-2023, which is gives us a year to think this through and because I'm sure there's going to be some kind of I'm sure there's going to be some logistics that we have to work through and possibly some training and thinking this through. But basically, it's a screener for students to screen for dyslexia, which so this is a good thing one good thing we have in place already is we already have a lot of dyslexia training and components here in the district in place because of some of the needs of some of our students and parents and families we work collaboratively with. But this will be a bit more of a for all students concept. And so the first year, they're asking basically that all students, kindergarten through third grade, would go through that screening. And that'd be required. And then all students that are in 4th through 6th grade can request the screener. And then the years after that, it would just be all kindergartners coming in would have the screener. And so what they're screening for is phonemic awareness and some of the pieces there. We already have a lot of screeners in place. So once we get into this and they actually start to open this up and see what it is, we may already have a lot of the components in place. So, before we get too far down the road of like, how is this going to impact us? Hopefully some of the things that we have in place might already be in a good position. But we'll watch this closely as it starts to unfold and make sure that we advocate if there's not funding in place for that. So there's a lot more, but those are just some ones that I think have impact. There's things on here about water bottles and, making sure that you have the stations in your OFCC projects, which we've done that already. And so there's some of those things. There's some police relationship bills in here too to build those relationships. So there's more to look at, and if you have any questions about any of that, I'd be happy to share, but those are the big ones.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Jonathan. Item number 25, administrator commentary.
Just want to share again how, our hearts are with the family and friends of Jake Williams, our class of 2020 grad who died this month, as well as Mason Elementary third grader JJ Day. Our community has had its share of tragedy, and it's always, at the same time, really beautiful to watch how we can all support each other in those times. And another way that we can support each other and learn together is through an event that's coming up on January 19th at 4:30 p.m. Our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council is sponsoring a community conversation around Tiffany Jewell's This Book is Anti-Racist. The conversation is going to be kind of being facilitated on Zoom on the National Day of Racial Healing. So it's kind of a really timely day for us to come together as a community and have this important conversation facilitated by members of our DEI Council, as well as Mason High School students who are part of our DEI student leader group at the high school. This is it's a place for us to come and have and learn together, and also to kind of commit to the actions that we can personally take to stand up for justice in our own lives and in all of the spaces that we occupy. So hope everyone will take that opportunity.
Thanks, Tracy.
Well, after our 2-week winter break, it was wonderful to have our students and our staff back in our buildings last week. I wanted just to express gratitude to our educators who really went above and beyond. It was like anything this year, it wasn't quite how it normally was. Not just the schedule was different, but the schedule was different in part because we had a significant number of students switching from online to in-person and in-person to online. And our educators were so thoughtful about how to make sure that those students were welcome, ready to go, even having orientations before the actual day, getting those questions answered, bringing students into the mix. I did want to give a special recognition to some of our administrators and administrative assistants who did a ton of work behind the scenes to make the systems work smoothly. So it sounds like an easy switch from in-person to online, and it's not. There's so many systems and so much planning that goes into that. And with systems that are not designed for that kind of switch mid-year, they're usually designed to work for a full school year. And so it required a lot of creative solutions, a lot of problem solving, and then just a lot of, honestly, time and careful effort to make that work. And so a huge thanks to Sherry Ballman and our data team, to Christine McCormick, Chrissy Huffnagel, Shauna Buemiller, our building administrators and administrative assistants who, when we first started talking about this back in October, a lot of it we wondered, how would we pull that off? And they did, and that's part of why this is such an amazing place to be able to serve. So thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
Welcome back. I hope you had a chance to relax and rejuvenate over break. The HR department is partnering with Todd Petrie in operations to create a COVID vaccine plan. And so we've been working on that so that hopefully when Mason City Schools is selected, we'll be ready and able to step right up and implement that plan. In addition, we've hired just this week a COVID support specialist to be with us through the end of the school year to help us to manage all of the aspects that go along with COVID, just implementation and making sure that the buildings are, have all the support that they need. So we're very excited about adding that position and having that support to our buildings, our nurses, to our nursing staff, to our administrative assistants, to our administrators, et cetera.
Thanks, Tanya.
So our innovation and IT department have been working on 2 projects to hopefully make the experience for parents and families a little bit better. One of which, our online families really struggled with having to come to the high school if they had a repair for their device. So we have since changed our process, some of which is due to the Forward Edge contract that you actually approved tonight, because we're bringing back in-house repairs. and will now be able to actually allow families to go to their child's building of attendance so that they can drop off and pick up their device. So that was based on feedback that we heard from our families, so we made that adjustment and are starting that actually tomorrow. And the next project we've been working on is being able to have a place, a folder that all a child's report cards over time will continue to be available and accessible to families, in addition to MAP reports or any type of report that you would get via email or sent home in a backpack will be online and available by year. So you'd be able to go back for those sports teams and all the other things when folks are asking us for those. And it's a very cumbersome process right now to be able to do that. And we're hoping that that's a better experience for our families.
Thanks, Christine.
Good evening. As we go into the second half of the year, I'd really like to express my gratitude just to two of the departments in my area, nutrition, led by Tamara Earl, and transportation, led by Mark Mrznowski. To give you an idea, just in online learners in the first half of the year, breakfast and lunch, we served 26,400 meals. So the work these people do is incredible when you look at the way that it's done. And we were able to partner with the youth football program and use their concession stand outside of MI so that parents are able to pull up there quickly, and our staff is able to be more indoors, outside, and it's worked out great. Just that ingenuity of Tamara Earl has been much appreciated. And transportation, with kids coming back the second half of the year, they already had it streamlined where all the kids had routes already planned at the beginning of the year, so it was no problem to bring kids back the second half of the year. I just wanted to thank these folks for making this happen in the time that we're in, but it's just exciting to see these things happening.
Thanks, Todd.
I just wanted to thank the Fiscal Office team. They're a group that is pretty much behind the scenes on a regular basis, but they do work really hard to support our students, staff, and families. Anything from processing purchase orders to vendor checks to payroll checks to administering our health insurance plans. There's a lot that they do. And specifically, over the last couple of weeks, we did get our annual audit report back and received another clean audit report from the Auditor State's Office, so on our gap statements and CAFR. So this is really the team that processes thousands and thousands of transactions every year, and are really part of the foundation of and the start of receiving one of those clean audit reports. So my thanks to them.
Thanks, Sean.
Thanks, Sean. I will echo what Tracy mentioned about just the beauty of a community coming together to support families in need. And we've seen that time and time again here at Mason. And when I think about, why I come to Mason, you hear that question a lot, and you heard Mr. Schroeder say that, the reason we came here is because of the schools and a lot of those great things. It's the schools, but it's the community and the outreach that happens around the schools as well. It's just that care and compassion for people that are in need. And I watch that happen so quickly in that mobilization. And, as families experience loss in different ways, we have that every year, unfortunately, because we're a large school system. And it's tragic. And one of the things that we try to do as a school and as a community is really follow the family through that experience and walk with them through that. And every person and family grieves differently. And so we really want to make sure that we're always in touch with those families and caring for them. And it is a great privilege that families allow us to walk through that with them. And so, our hearts break for the Day family, and our hearts also are with the Day family as we move through this process, and any family that has lost loved ones along the way. And so I just want to thank our community, and I want to also just hit pause and thank our teachers and our staff. From the moment this first week back for the 2021 school, a lot of people said 2020 is behind us, and we put all the hard things behind us, and now we're going to 2021. Well, our first week of 2021, our high school staff cared deeply for students after a former student passed away through suicide. And then we had the events that happened at the Capitol, and our staff handled that professionally and created compassionate environment for our kids to feel safe, whether it was online or in person. They did that. That was midweek. And so, because, you know, as a teacher walking into that, or a bus driver walking into that, you don't have a heads up. These things just happen, and they hit the national media, and then you've got 6 hours to get your mind into a space where you can actually work with your students. And then losing a student and watching our staff, from our mental health team and our mental wellness team all the way through to the staff in rooms and how they care for our students, and then they pour themselves into that, is just, it is a great privilege to serve in Mason, to watch that happen. So I just want to thank all of our staff for doing what they do and doing it so well.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Thanks.
Item number 26, board commentary. Desiree?
Thanks, Charles. I just wanted to, and I wish he was still here, to welcome and congratulate Mr. Schroeder on his appointment to the Great Oaks Board. It sounds like he's an absolute perfect fit. And ironically, he retired. It sounds like he's probably busier now than he was before. And secondly, just sincere condolences to the Day family and the Williams family. I'm glad that you have the support of a wonderful school district and family to walk you through this tragedy.
Thanks, Desiree. Matt?
Yeah, Jonathan, I'm going to sound like I'm repeating some of the things that you just said. But one of the things out of this pandemic is that there have been a lot of funny memes in the last 8 years, right? Describing our experience and allowing us to laugh at it. One of them, and most of them are, you laugh at them, but it's kind of to keep from crying a little bit. And one I saw the other day was about, I forget the exact context or exactly what it was, but it was something about like somebody being mad that the last person out of 2020 forgot to lock the door on our way out, because 2021 has been a pretty big wallop. Aside from my Cleveland Browns winning and beating the Steelers in the playoffs for the first win since 1994, but who's counting? Me. That's one of one of the unfortunately kind of few bright spots of 2021. And it's such a blessing to be a part of this community and to have our schools and to serve this community and to help stand up behind you all, because we don't do it. We support you, and we try to provide resources and put you in a position to bring us to success and to hire the right people and to set the tone and create the culture. But it is you all, Jonathan, the administrative team in the room, our teachers and staff who interact with our students first and foremost. I mean, when I think about what we've all lost in the last year of part of our lives, I think about my family. We're still pretty careful, and we're not doing many things outside the home because the experts tell us not to. We're not part of our different communities, and we don't. There are a lot of things about our lives that we don't get to experience. But man, what a blessing it is that my kids get to experience school, and they're in the classroom with their teachers, and they have that interaction and that experience with fellow students, and that our services to our students and family and community are still robust, and maybe even more so than they were before the pandemic. And so I just want to say thank you all for setting it, continuing to cultivate a culture and create a culture where we take care of each other, and for being there for each other and allowing us to be there for you and for our community. And the Day family, our hearts break for you. I mentioned that a third grader, that hits right pretty squarely home for me, being a father of 2 second graders and 1 fourth grader. That's right there in the middle of my experience. And so it hit me differently than some of our other losses have. And just thank you for the example of grace that you're giving us all, and for allowing us to experience and be there with you in this. It's a privilege. And to our teachers and staff, and all of you, I mean, we've talked a lot about what's been thrown at you all and how you've just knocked it out of the park at every step of the way. But man, the last week was just a pretty succinct microcosm, and maybe it was the last gasp of 2022, hopefully, right? But I mean, you're coming off of a bit of a spike in coronavirus cases just generally coming out of the break where people were outside of the school community. There were a lot of cases. That's tough. A loss of our former high school student, unfortunately, to suicide. That's its own thing. And then we were all experienced the trauma of the events at the Capitol on Wednesday, and I'm so glad that we made our call about easing back into the year, because it didn't make it entirely easy, but I'm grateful that our teachers and staff didn't have to be physically in the classroom while that was actually happening. Because I can't imagine you having to have still been doing the work with students even outside the classroom, right? Even outside the physical space, because it was kind of impossible to do anything in my job that day, as we all went through that together. But then also to know that you didn't have much time to prepare, and you were going to have students in your classrooms the next day, and getting on your buses, and it was just, I thank you for your professionalism and your care for our students, and to be able to handle that is just a testament to your professionalism and your skills. And I think it kind of speaks more broadly too, to that, I've spoken about this before, but things are still tough for all of us, right? And so it's a privilege to be there for each other, but for our community, know that there are resources if this gets to be too tough for any of us, right? That it's okay, that if it's too much, admit that it's too much, get the help you need. We can put you in touch with the resources that you need. So, and then, again, to repeat, but Tracy mentioned our book study for the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council. This is we're really excited about this event, actually, because when I think about all the things that are out of our control, right, and small ways that we want to do something, this is something that we can do. When we think about justice and we think about diversity, equity, inclusion, and racial justice, and just understanding each other through the lens of an experience in the midst of events throughout this past year. This is something that we can do, is we can meet together and talk about this book and talk about what this means for us and what we might be committed to do in our own lives as part of this community. And this is a really good book to start with that, because it's super accessible. It's pretty short, but really packed with great stuff. And so I really encourage you all to join, sign up. Get the book. It's not that long. You can read it before the 19th. It's on the 19th. There's an email. Please sign up. Fellow board members, please sign up. It's 4:30 on January 19th. So please join us there. And that's
Thanks,
all.
Matt.
Thank you.
Kevin?
Well, I want to, just take a moment to convey that the prayers of the Wise family, and I know many in this community who are connected to the Days, are squarely on them and their family, and the passing of young JJ, and I just want to thank the many aspects of our community that do come to that crisis moment to try to offer comfort in any way they can. And one of those groups is increasingly our school, and particularly Nicole Furman and her team. Very often Jonathan right next to her, and other teaching staff, teachers, principals, administrators who may be connected, and offer help however we can. And that's, I think, just something that we want to extend, but certainly, underpinning all that is our prayers that they find some comfort in that support in such a difficult time, and that the memories of joy and all the grace that JJ offered their family and his friends quickly just come into that void that's right now so painful, and wish them certainly all the support they can get from our community. On a much more administrative note, but extremely important for all of our mental health and just complexity that we've been dealing with, just to recognize the work. Usually we broad brush things and say Jonathan and his team, but I think all of his team would recognize that Jonathan's leadership of standing strong, keeping our schools open, being collaborative, leading, being creative, providing support for other superintendents, other school districts, and most importantly, offering up to our kind of administrative bureaucracy in the state and our federal government, our county, data and science, and help to think through a very complex, challenging project, and to actually undertake a study that we knew the answer, but just knowing it wasn't enough. It needed to be proven, and that was fine. And we were able to somehow marshal the resources and support of many people to get through that, culminating with the announcement of much more reasonable and effective quarantine rules that are taking effect now, and will result in more kids being able to be in school, which we now know means less infection, and certainly all the other benefits that we all know that school can help provide. And so, while we still take very seriously the choice of each of our parents in offering the online solution as well, that's a big milestone, and I hope that those parents who are choosing the online can watch that for a while and gain some comfort to understand that the school district they live in is preparing a seat for their child as well at the time that they find it comfortable to return. And Jonathan, thank you for doing that. That's going to be if not a chapter, that's a big part of not only our school district's history, but the entire state of Ohio. So thank you for doing that. And on a much happier note, I am not going to let pass that Miss Tracy Carson put out a big fun notice over the holidays since we last met that I think shocked the entire community. But what an exciting time for Jeff and Tracy and what will be her expanding family. And we're proud to be there with you. And as I said, I think in a text, you may have the world's largest babysitting crew ready for you. So, just congratulations. And we're really proud and glad that you're going to go through this, and we're happy to be next to you and wish you all the best.
Thank you, Kevin. We feel the love and in our shock, we still feel that we are now really excited. 25 years later is a big gap, but we're excited to be expecting baby Carson number 2 in June.
Thanks, Kevin and Tracy.
Thank you, Tracy.
I was not going to out the good news, but I'm happy to celebrate it here as well. Connie?
Yeah, congratulations, Mrs. Carson. We are very happy for you as well and hope to celebrate you with you along the way. In many other ways, 2020 has just been a very difficult and heavy year on a lot of people for a lot of reasons. I had 2 very close friends of the family, and then 5 actual family members that passed away in the past 6 to 8 weeks because of COVID. And if you didn't take it seriously before that, you kind of get a real wake-up call real quick. But the biggest reason I don't want to forget about 2020 is because I saw so many people without being asked or told what to do. I've seen them pick up their friends. I've seen them pick up their families. I've seen them pick up strangers, take food to them, fix food and deliver it. They may not even have known where it was going to go. And that's a beautiful trait to have in your community and in your family. And at Mason, I consider us all a great big family. I think most of us try to encourage that mindset amongst the community. And I'm just glad to see it go, but I never want to forget, because we learned a lot of lessons and we saw a lot of very, very big hearts in our community. So hopefully 2021 will be a little bit better for everyone as we started off here, first board meeting, right?
Thank you, Connie. Like everybody who has already mentioned it, my prayers, our family's prayers are with the Day family, the Williams family. The weekend response was incredible to see. The moment that we found out, I don't know how much longer it was. I think it was Monday morning. I was driving down Snyder on the way to drop off at school and saw a mom and son running tree to tree, tying ribbons around, and it's just a visual reminder of the support and the connectedness that we enjoy in this community. And as much as we brace for those kinds of tragedies, there's not a community, I think, that I would rather be a part of when those moments come. As Kevin alluded to, the recognition, for the work that Jonathan, you've done on behalf of the district and really all schools going forward with the quarantining rules and guidelines. We can't say thanks enough. But I also do want to acknowledge that while I think your leadership and your advocacy has been a huge part of that, we obviously heard from a lot of perspectives in our community along the way. One in particular that was quoted in our Wall Street Journal article that kind of kicked things off, who sits with us in the back of the room at these meetings and is avoiding eye contact with me right now, Maria Miller, and our MEA president. When popular wisdom may not always be to go on the record and voice that belief that opening schools and having our kids in the classrooms is in the best interest from that side of the bargaining table, so to speak. It's not lost on the board. It's not lost on our community when we see other communities, other organizations responding differently, advocating differently. And we appreciate that, and we recognize that we live in a community and we represent a community that's special to be able to collaborate like that. So we thank you. We thank the parents, the teachers. Just off the top of my head, Mindy Patton, their daughter, Ed Protzman, several others that were quoted in the article. Tracy.
Art Schuba.
That's right, yeah.
And they talked with several more teachers. That article, he spent lots of time talking with lots of our teachers and lots of our families who helped give him information.
That's right. It was a really thorough deep dive. Not used to seeing something so wide-ranging and encompassing, and so we thank you for that advocacy. But we'll also circle back. We know that that's a kind of a hot button topic, and it's one that receives a lot of attention and a lot of spotlight. And you have gracefully answered the call when asked and reached out to and been thoughtful about your response to that at the national level. But we also know, as you mentioned during your legislative update, that's not the sole advocacy that you've conducted for us or that our administrative team has put time and effort into. We hear about it at the state level with these proposed bills and this legislation, and we know that while quarantine has taken up so much time and energy and resources, there's still the regular, ordinary business of educating kids going on, and that doesn't stop, and you guys have to keep thinking about that stuff as well, and thinking about the solutions to bridging the gap and finding ways to keep delivering Mason quality to our kids. And we thank you guys for not skipping a beat and keeping doing that as well. So as we move forward into 2021, I am looking forward to a new year and entering January with all the optimism of a yet to be crumpled up list of New Year's resolutions. I'm 12 days in now and still going strong. I'm not going to publicly, share what they are, but I'll just say that, I haven't yet hit that wall that's going to come in a couple weeks in February when I, drop the ball and everything and get a bag of potato chips and turn on the TV and veg out for a weekend. So in the meantime, I hope that everybody is feeling refreshed and rejuvenated and ready to hit the ground running here in the second semester, and putting a positive spin as we start out here. So with that, I'll move on to item number 27, adjournment. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.